This video I want to speak about the Armstrong lie. It's a new documentary that came out recently. I saw the documentary, and the documentary was about 2 hours long, and I enjoyed watching it. I think it teaches us a lot about, ourselves, about this culture, about the ego, and just a lot about competition, and the state of this society and where it is headed. What has happened. It brings up a lot of points of which I wish to educate people on, and essentially help promote something more positive within the martial arts, and just more positive within human beings' lives in general. So watching this documentary is gonna be a reference point, a huge reference point for me to constantly refer back to this documentary to kind of prove my points. Because the interesting about this documentary is that it's something where it's factual information, things that are proven, and it actually did happen, and it went through the whole court system, and it was a huge thing, and these are all facts. And the person that committed these crimes, Lance Armstrong, he admitted to all of this. So these are all facts, and he's a living example of, what has happened, with him, and how, this society, this culture of competition has influenced him to be this way. Alright, so I recommend everybody to watch this documentary. I think there's so much that could be learned. Alright, so that's the first thing. This video is probably going to be pretty long, so I'm going to make other videos in the future, always like a lot of videos referencing this. But, I'm not a fan of I'm not like a big fan of the Tour de France. I never even watched one before, but I've seen some videos on YouTube, quick short videos about it. But I'm not all into the biking thing as far as like for competition. I'm not into that. But I love biking. Love it so much to the point where I've invested a lot of money into a very high quality bike, like this bike that I have right now. It's like a race bike, and that's how much I love biking. But I don't do it for like competitive reasons. I just bike because I love to bike, but still watching this documentary really was very interesting to me. And I could relate to a lot of the things as far as what's going on. So what I see, this is a clear fact, is that they have taken something as simple as biking, and they have turned it into something completely competitive. So competitive that it's just pretty much outrageous. Biking is not a violent thing, but they've turned it, because there's so much competition, they've turned it into something violent. So, and this is just biking. So normally you wouldn't imagine somebody that just bikes would be on performance enhancing drugs like steroids or testosterone or whatever that's out there. But this is clearly an example that it's in the biking world, competitive biking world. These performance enhancing drugs. So with something as simple and non-violent as biking, imagine, the other sports, how much of a potential that performance enhancing drugs are being, utilized in these other competitive sports. Biking, right? Track and field is just running. But there have been gold medalists that have been caught on steroids, where and basically their gold medals have been basically taken away from them. So biking, something as simple as that, something as simple as running, performance enhancing drugs. Just think about all the sports out there. You know, from golf to tennis to baseball is a big one with the Barry Bonds. That's been proven, right? Um, of course, something as aggressive as football, it's in there. You know, something like bodybuilding. I mean, it's all over the bodybuilding. It's just clearly right in front of your face. You know, WWE, WWF. It's just there's no secret about it. They're all on it. And these people that are idolizing these fighters in the cage, these MMA fighters, these cage fighters, supposedly this cage fighting is supposed to be even more brutal than the WWE. So if the WWE is not even as brutal as cage fighting, then these cage fighters are on it too. It's just a clear thing. Because you're talking about, WWF is supposed to be like, these people are supposed to be elite, hardcore, the strongest people out there, or some of the strongest people. And these cage fighters are trying to claim themselves to be above these WWF. So that means that basically it's just they're gonna have to be on these drugs as well to even compete at that level. So with the Lance Armstrong thing, he was on the performance enhancing drugs, and so were all his teammates, and pretty much so were all the people that were at that high level of achieving certain records. They were on it too. It was in the culture of the biking. It's in the culture of bodybuilding. It's in the football. It's in the baseball. It's in the cage fighting. It's in the boxing. It's in pretty much every single in the Olympics, in track and field. It's like Sylvester Stallone was on it. He admitted that. And here he is in this Rocky IV movie trying to promote like that he was natural and this Russian guy was taking steroids but he wasn't. And that's just a bunch of bullshit, And in real life, Sylvester Stallone himself was on the steroids. And then you got Arnold Schwarzenegger himself that was on the steroids in the bodybuilding, win 7 Olympians, and now he's a governor. So this documentary is clearly indicating that if you cheat, you lie, you deceive people, there's a lot of benefit to that. As long as you don't get caught. As long as you don't get caught, if you cheat, lie, steal, and deceive people, then you're going to get a huge benefit. You're going to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. 7 Olympian titles, and then you get, all these movie gigs. You get to become the governor, or you get to become Sylvester Stallone and get to be starring in all these movies. Alright, or you get to be Lance Armstrong, winning 7 in a row, 7 consecutive Tour de France in a row. Get millions of dollars, get all these sponsorships, recognized by everybody all over the world. You get to meet the president. You get to just make a bunch of money, millions of dollars. Get to, marry a rock star. As long as you don't get caught. And to get him caught, it's like him robbing a bank 7 times. He gets scot-free, and then he just gets too greedy for more money, more power, more fame. He couldn't just let go of that habit. So then he tried to rob the bank an 8th time, and then a 9th time, and then finally he got caught. But even to catch him, it took so much work. I mean, millions of dollars in lawsuits and just so much drama to get him caught. So, and the only reason he got caught was because in the biking industry, or in the biking realm, in the Tour de France at least, they're biking as a team, and then the people in the team were on the drugs, and they knew what was going on. But when you notice, when it's an individual thing, if you're a golfer, or you're a tennis player, or you're a bodybuilder, or you're a fighter, or you're a boxer. When it's an individual thing, it's almost impossible for them to catch you. It's like trying to catch somebody like, masturbating. You know, they're smart. They're not going to do it in public. They're not going to videotape themselves doing it. They're going to do it in private. Nobody's going to ever see them unless they do it just completely. They're just dumb with it. So these people that are on steroids and they're in these individual sports, they just keep it hidden. And even Lance Armstrong with the biking, they tested him so many times, like just non-stop testing, and they still couldn't prove it. Imagine how hard it would be to prove to, to the other people in these other sports. It'd be like almost impossible to prove that somebody's on steroids. And basically, it's almost like because of what's going on out there, you almost have to pretty much assume that everybody's on it. Like the truly hardworking people that aren't on steroids or other performance enhancing drugs, it really diminishes their achievements, and they're the ones that really lose out. But this is the world that we live in, and that's why I don't pay attention to any of this. I don't look up to any professional athletes because I feel that they're all cheats and fakes, just like Lance Armstrong. I don't look up to none of them. You know what I mean? It could be somebody like Michael Jordan. Was he on steroids? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, if he wasn't, then maybe what if LeBron James was on steroids? Like you don't know, and you can never prove that. Another thing is, it's just like, is that Lance Armstrong didn't even look like he was on steroids. I mean, the dude was so skinny and so frail, and he didn't even look like he's on steroids. But when his performance on the bike compared to the other people, it's obvious that he was on something. But that's based on his performance. Because the performance enhancing drugs increase his ability, to perform in an endurance and cardio level. So like basically what I'm saying is that like being on steroids or performance enhancing drugs is not just about somebody that looks completely ripped. Like say Arnold Schwarzenegger in the past, oh, he's on steroids. No, there's people out there that are on it, and it's not even about looking more ripped. It's just about, them being on some type of drug to enhance their abilities in certain areas. And it's something that I almost assume that everybody's on it. And the only person that I know for a fact that's not on it is myself. And my children, of course, and my wife, because I'm with them all day, every day, and I know that they're not on it. I know I'm not on it. I know my father's not on it. So, I don't use other athletes out there as a gauge. I use myself as a gauge to see where I'm at and to see how much I can improve based on a natural development. But I see that this world is so unnatural, that they do so many fake and false things, and this is just an example of that. And it took so much hard work for them to prove this, to bring it out to the public, but majority of the case, 99% of the time, it's not something that will be caught. It's just something that happens, and nobody's there to punish them, and there's nobody there to show the public what's real. So, for example, if you choose to be an actor, who's going to stop you from taking steroids? If you choose to be a bodybuilder, who's going to stop you from taking steroids? You know, I mean, if you choose to be a fighter or a boxer, who's going to stop you from taking steroids? You know, and obviously, these tests, say they come once every 6 months or once every year. Obviously, these people on steroids, they know how to pass these tests without having it be detected. Lance Armstrong was able to do it, obviously, so obviously other people could do it so easily. And you're just not going to be able to prove it. You know, and it's just more about, you know, technology rather than people that are actually working hard. You know, Lance Armstrong, you know, they were kept saying, you know, there's no way that he would have been, you know, winning all those titles if it wasn't for all those performance enhancing drugs. It was just all fake. It's all false. And that's true. You know, and another thing that shows about the society is just like how they only care if you're number one. Like, they don't give a damn about you if you're number 2, number 3, number 10, number 15. They don't give a damn about anybody else except for number 1. And that's a very sad thing. That's an extremely sad thing. And I don't promote that. You know, I don't promote that at all. I think it's very damaging for our psychology. It's very damaging for this culture, for our children, for the people. Just everything about, you know, about the enjoyment of life. I don't feel that our purpose in what we do is to just be number 1. I feel that, and that's what I like about art. It's not about being number 1. It's just about self-expression. But sport is just always about just being number 1. That's all they care about. And I don't agree to that. You know, and I discourage sport. You know, I discourage sport. I speak against sport. I feel that it's very damaging for people's spiritual growth. You know, and even something as simple as biking, which is supposed to be non-violent, they've turned it into something very ugly. And one thing that I noticed in a documentary that was really sad was Lance Armstrong was supposed to be friends with his teammates and they're supposed to work together as a team, but they were like enemies. They hated each other, you know, because they both, you know, everybody on the team wanted to be number 1, and they had a lot of hatred for one another. They were just complete enemies. You know, just using each other for a specific purpose to just basically become number 1. You know, and I don't agree to that. And I don't promote that. And that's, you know, this is just a very, it's a direct example of how dirty and ugly competition is. You know, and it's just a biking. And imagine how horrible it is for, you know, these fighting, you know, the boxing and the cage fighting and all that, the football, where you're actually, you know, competing and hurting each other. But this is just biking. You know, and the whole performance enhancing drugs is just, you know, they're just destroying their own bodies, but they're also just damaging the entire reputation of an entire sport. You know, and that's why they frown upon it so much. You know, it's a very sad thing, but you know, these drugs are within, like, they're all over. And it's almost like impossible to stop it. It's almost like trying to ban guns. The guns are still here. You're not going to take it away. People are still going to find a way to get access to firearms. Or trying to ban alcohol. That's not going to happen. People are going to find ways to get their hands on it. Or ban marijuana. It's not going to happen. People are going to find a way to get their hands on it. So the steroids is not going to stop. And I see in this professional sporting world, I pretty much assume that everybody's on steroids. And I just lack respect for any of them. Like, it's not natural development. It's not, a pure hard effort. But another thing is this, even without the steroids, there's scientific research and it's fact that people are born with certain genetics that give them a huge edge over others. An edge as if they're on steroids, but it's not steroids, it's just good genetics. So a lot of times, it's not just about working harder, it's about working hard and good genetics. So these people with good genetics are basically they're pretty much born with steroids, born with natural steroids. And that, in a way, it just gives them an unfair advantage over, the average person. And these people that are average they're going to resent that. So, that's the reality. So these average people may want to take the steroids to be able to compete with these people that are born with these natural talents or genetics, and even the playing field. But then the people with the good genetics, then they get on steroids too, and then they still maintain their edge. So it just doesn't stop. It becomes the same struggle all over again. You got an average person on steroids, and you got a person with good genetics on steroids. Then it gets back to the same uneven playing field. Steroids just takes it to another level. So I see that, this is just a prime example, and a relevant and just very recent discovery of what's been going on for the past 2 decades, longer than 2 decades. I mean, because steroids was a relatively new thing around the time when Bruce Lee was alive. It was a new thing around the time Arnold Schwarzenegger, was competing in bodybuilding. It was a new thing. And it just kept building and building. And this thing with Lance Armstrong, it started off in 1999. And now it's already 2014. So you're talking about over a decade, later. And then he finally gets caught. I mean, the steroids, it shows how rampant steroids are within not just professional sports, but just in this entire society. I mean, you got people that don't even compete in sports that are on steroids. I mean, it's like all over. And another thing is, you got people on YouTube that could be on steroids, and who's gonna stop them? Nobody's gonna stop them. You got somebody on YouTube, say this shortcut abs guy, or this Hannibal guy, or whoever out there, this Frank Madrano guy. I mean, they could be on steroids. Who's gonna stop them from being on steroids? Nobody's gonna stop them. You know what I mean? And then they get all the attention, they get all the fame, they get all the money, they get all the women. There's a lot of benefits for these people to be on steroids. And this is how the world is. I mean, they will give you everything if you lie, cheat, and steal. They'll give you power, they'll give you money, they give you fame, they give you woman. But if you tell the truth, they'll take it all away from you. And they might even put you in jail. That's how this world is. They punish the people that tell the truth, and they reward the people that lie. That's how this world is. And it's a game of power and politics. I see a lot of evilness within the eyes of Lance Armstrong. I see that he's an evil person. I mean, I don't want to say like an evil person. It's just that this guy is really like he's not a good person. He's an unspiritual person. Very unspiritual. I could see the energy, his the way that he looks and everything. I could just feel a lot of horrible negative energy. Let me not say evil person. He's a very negative energy person. Like I feel the same energy with George Bush. Like I see George Bush and Lance Armstrong. Somebody that just lie right to your face. But like nothing. I see a lot of similarities between George Bush and Lance Armstrong. And these people, George Bush becomes the president for 8 years, leading our country, being the way that he is. And we're the ones who put him there. That's a very sad thing. And you got somebody like Lance Armstrong that's supposed to be the role model for this society. He's the top person, and he's a horrible person. So you got a lot of these people, a lot of these politicians. They're horrible people, but they're the ones who have the power. That's a very sad thing. I mean, a lot of these politicians are bad people. A lot of these people, that are very famous, they're very bad people. But yet, they are the leaders of the society. That's a very sad thing. And so I don't really pay much attention to the mass media, because I know that it's fake, I know it's false, and it's not real. And it's a bad influence for my life. So what I do is I focus on my own development. I know that I'm real. I know that what I'm doing is real. I know that I'm not doing it for the fame, not doing it for the money. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I do it for love. I love what I do. And there's always going to be those people that hate what I do and try to stop me from doing what I do. But, it comes with it. And people are going to accuse me. Well, and that's a sad thing, somebody like Lance Armstrong, who does what he does, or do what he did, it jeopardizes everybody's development, athletic development. Then, you see that this person's on steroids, and then now you just feel that everybody's on steroids. Anybody that's doing anything extraordinary, he's on steroids. That's what people end up getting trained to think. And that's a sad thing for people that actually do it naturally. But even so, if people want to say that, hey, this Freddie guy, he's on steroids because, people normally wouldn't be able to do what he does. I know I'm not in steroids, but at the same time, I know I got good genetics. And that's a huge part. That's a big part of why I could do what I could do. And that's, in a way, that's like natural steroids, having good genetics. But regardless of that, it's not that everything about my genetics is good, like I'm a smaller person, and I could wish that I was taller or something like that, or bigger. And then there's people that are born bigger, born taller. there's always a positive and negative to, to what you were given, since birth. And we just need to learn to appreciate, what we were given and work with it. But I just promote people to not be competitive. If people learn to just be natural and be themselves, I think this world would be a lot more happier, a lot more positive. I see that competition in itself is a disease, not just in the cage fighting, but just in everything that we do. It's a disease. And if you watch this documentary, it will clearly point that out to you, like what is so wrong with this disease that we have. Like, if you're gonna compete, you need to make sure that you're doing it in a healthy and safe way. And not just that, but just also pay attention to the ethics involved with it as well, as in this case. But I really do promote people to to put an end to the competition. And just kind of do what you like to do because you love to do it. But I know that's a very idealistic way to see things. But that's what I recommend. But for the people that can't get to that level, then I don't know. I mean, I don't really respect any of these sports at all, because I know there's no way that they can stop people to being on steroids. They just can't. It's like trying to stop people from masturbating. It's not going to happen. Or stop people from watching porn. It's not going to happen. Once there's the access, once people have the ability to access porn, or whatever the case may be, they're going to watch it. People have access to steroids, they're going to use it. So these professional athletes, I pretty much assume they're all on it. And that's just the reality of it. So I don't really care for any of them. Even if they weren't on it, I really don't give a damn. For me, I feel that we should be focusing on our own development. Like, we should stop watching people ride bikes, and let's just start riding bikes ourselves. Stop watching all these athletes do things, and let's just do it ourselves. Stop watching the Olympics, and let's just get out there and do it, ourselves. That's what I recommend for people to do. And when you do it for yourself, don't compete. Just do it because you want to do it. And just do it because you love to do it. That's what I say.